Welcome to Complete BS, the official podcast of couch coaches everywhere. Not just football. It's every sport that ruins your parlay, wrecks your fantasy week, and still brings you back for more. Buzzer beaters, blown leads, and brackets and flames. Yeah, we're all over it. Unfiltered takes, armchair analysis, and enough bold opinions to fill a playbook. Hosted by Brian Schmuck, sports junkie, the Saban of stats, and your official voice of I could coach better than that. Let's go.
Welcome, Couch Coach Nation. We're in award season. Friday night is the College Football Award Show, and Saturday is the Heisman Trophy presentation. We've also got the Army-Navy game on Saturday before we turn our attention to the bowl games and playoffs. As a reminder, we're the official podcast of Couch Coach Nation. Join us at www.couchcoachnation.com. This is where discerning fans talk ball all year round. We use real names, real respect, and really knowledgeable fans. There are plenty of holes in the internet to crawl into if you want to be a football troll. But if you like good, honest conversation all year with legends of the game and a peek behind the curtain of major programs, I invite you to join us at Couch Coach Nation. It's award season, so let's make some picks on some of the major awards given out this week. We're going to start off with the Chuck Bednarik Award. This goes to the top defensive player in the country. The finalists are Caleb Downs from Ohio State, Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, and Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. AV, you got a pick?
So, looking at them, Caleb Downs, Cassius Howell, and Jacob Rodriguez, if it were me picking B, I would have Jacob Rodriguez. But I'm a big Jacob Rodriguez fan. I've been on his hype train for a few weeks now. But I think Caleb Downs is going to win. I think he has the media mantra as the best defensive player in the country. He has since 2 seasons ago, really. And he deserves that. Like, he's very good, too. So I'm going to go with the prediction of Caleb Downs to win. Jacob Rodriguez, I think, should win. Cassius Howell, great season, leads the SEC in sacks, but I don't think he's going to pull this one off.
I agree. Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in the country, but I think Jacob Rodriguez has had the best season, and he's also been talked about as a sleeper Heisman pick. So I actually think he should win, and I think Jacob Rodriguez will win. The Biletnikoff Award for the top receiver in the country, we've got Skylar Bell from UConn, Makai Lemon from USC, and Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. I'll go first on this one, and this is, I think, just like the Bednarik with the Ohio State player. I think Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in the country. However, the best season this year is Makai Lemon. So my pick is for Makai Lemon, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, I think Jeremiah Smith's going to win it. I think he's the most toolsy player of size, speed, hands, routes, all that stuff. Makai Lemon is really fun to watch. I like watching him, and I'm secretly rooting for him to win this, but I think it's going to be Jeremiah Smith. Skylar Bell, though, his numbers across the board are better than all of them, so I don't know if that counts.
The Lou Groza Collegiate Place Kicker Award, we've got 3 finalists, Aiden Burr from Georgia Tech, Kansei Matuzaka from Hawaii, and Tate Sendell from Oklahoma. You got a pick on this one?
I'll go Aiden Burr from Georgia Tech. He's the ACC guy that I'm very familiar with. So, no, I don't have a pick. I'll just throw out Aiden Burr.
So, I think it's going to be Tate Sendell from Oklahoma, and it's going to be on the strength of he was 7 for 7 from over 50 yards, and that's going to kind of push him over the edge. The Ray Guy Award for the top punter in the country, Brett Thorson from Georgia, Evan Crenshaw from Troy, and Palmer Williams from Baylor. Statistically speaking, Evan Crenshaw from Troy has had the best year, but with this kind of award, I think Brett Thorson's going to get it. He's been a finalist twice, and I think he just wins it on name recognition. He's had a good year, but Georgia, the fact that he's been a finalist twice, I think gives him the edge.
I agree, and I think he does a really good job of pinning punts. I guess his net punting yards aren't that great, but he pins people inside the 20. So name recognition, there's a couple of stats they can point to. Georgia's having a better year than those 3, tends to get the awards.
The Maxwell Award goes to the best player in college football. This is the other award with the Heisman. A lot of times you'll see the finalists being the same. The Maxwell only has 3 finalists versus 4 finalists for the Heisman. Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza, and Julian Sayin are the 3 Maxwell finalists. You and I both have said it multiple times this year. Jeremiah Love's the best player in college football. He's my pick for the Maxwell Award.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremiah Love is the best player in college football. He's had his moments too, big games, all of that. So I would give it to Jeremiah Love. Wouldn't shock me to see Mendoza get it. I'll talk more about that when we get to the Heisman.
The Davy O'Brien Quarterback Award, we've got 3 finalists here: Fernando Mendoza, Marcel Reed, and Julian Sayin. When you got these 3 quarterbacks, I've got Mendoza taking this quarterback award.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised Haynes King and a couple other people aren't in there. To me, Julian Sayin being thrown on these awards are a little early. I think he's a year, like next year, this makes total sense, but he grew into a good season, but like he wasn't killing it numbers wise early on. And he's got so much talent on that team that I don't know he's the most valuable quarterback either. So to me, I'm just throwing that out there. It's a little weird. Marcel Reed, great year, but Fernando Mendoza, what he's meant to that team and where they're at right now, it's got to be him.
An award that was already given out, and so we already know who the winner is. The Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, interestingly enough, went to Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, and he wasn't on the Maxwell list or the Davy O'Brien list. So interesting there. A lot of times these awards will go a little bit different, and they'll kind of stagger out who gets them. The Outland Trophy, the best interior lineman, Spencer Fano from Utah, Logan Jones from Iowa, and Caden McDonald. When I was looking at this, I was back and forth between Logan Jones and Caden McDonald. And then I went with Logan Jones because I think the separation between him at center and the next best center I felt was significant. And so I went with Logan Jones.
Yeah, I would go with Caden McDonald because of the Ohio State defense and him being kind of the anchor right there in the middle of that. Great point about Logan Jones. You take McDonald out and they probably still have a great defense, so fair point. But that defense was so dominant all year, and he was right up the middle centerpiece of that. So I'll go Caden McDonald.
The Jim Thorpe Defensive Back of the Year Award, we've got 3 finalists: Mansour Delaney from LSU, Caleb Downs, Ohio State, Leonard Moore from Notre Dame. All 3 had really strong seasons. These are great players. They're going to play a long time in the NFL. I'm going with Caleb Downs. I think he's probably the best defensive player in the country, certainly the best defensive back, and his versatility in where you can play him and who he can cover just gives him the edge.
Yep, Caleb Downs is the most versatile. They can put him down in the box. He can play safety. He can cover like a corner. He can return punts. He can do it all. So I give it to Caleb Downs. The other 2 are great, but I think this is a kind of a clear-cut one to me.
The Doak Walker Award for the top running back in the country, we've got Ahmad Hardy from Missouri, Kewan Lacey from Ole Miss, and Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. It's a shame anybody has to lose this award because these 3 players are all so special. They're phenomenal. Everybody's had a really great year. Jeremiah Love, as we've talked about, best player, we think in college football. It's the 7.1 yards per carry for me that separates him, so I've got it going to Love.
Yeah, I agree. I would give all running back awards to Jeremiah Love, but it is a shame that Kewan Lacey, maybe he will win it, and it wouldn't be a shame, but Kewan Lacey has put up a very special year, an underrated, under talked about year. So I'm just taking a second to give him his props because what he has done this year has been probably the difference in an Ole Miss team the last few years and this year. Like he's putting up huge numbers. Lane Kiffin said he makes him a better play caller, etc. So props to Kewan Lacey, but Jeremiah Love to me is a notch above.
The John Mackey Award for the top tight end, 3 finalists: Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, Michael Trigg from Baylor, and Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. Sadiq with Oregon, he's got the touchdowns. Eli Stowers at Vanderbilt, he's got the receptions and the yards. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. I love Sadiq as a player. I think they're both going to have really long NFL careers, but just for the season, I'm going to go with Eli Stowers at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think Eli Stowers is the better player, not even just for the season. I think he's a really good player. I'm a little surprised that they didn't have Alabama's tight end on here. He missed the last game against Georgia, and their offense just stopped. But Eli Stowers, to me, is the pick. The other 2 great years.
The Butkus Award, we've got Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, C.J. Allen from Georgia, Aiden Fisher, Indiana, Anthony Hill, Texas, and Arvell Reese from Ohio State. Man, looking at this group of finalists, there's not a bad linebacker in this group. It's one of the most stacked years for linebackers and just phenomenal players, but I've got to go Jacob Rodriguez for the year that he's had.
Like I said earlier, I've been on the Jacob Rodriguez fanboy train for a while. I think the difference is the amount of turnovers he causes. I mean, he flips the field. 7 forced fumbles, a few interceptions. To me, that's the difference. He's all over the place. That defense is top-notch. Them and Ohio State, to me, are the top two. So I go Jacob Rodriguez.
The Heisman Trophy, the big prize, 4 finalists: Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame, Julian Sayin, Ohio State. When I was trying to determine who I would pick, I immediately eliminated Julian Sayin. I was looking at the other 3. I don't know that they're going to go Jeremiah Love, but maybe if there's not a clear-cut winner, since the Heisman started in 1935, every 10 years there's been a running back that's won the award. Going back 2015 was Derrick Henry, 2005 was Reggie Bush, and all the way back to the beginning. So this is a running back year if history were to hold up, but I don't see that happening. Fernando Mendoza, I was looking for him to maybe have a big game in the Big Ten championship game. He did well. They got the win, but he didn't have that monster game or that real Heisman moment. Maybe that last touchdown to Surratt is what will stick in voters' minds. But you look at the season Diego Pavia had, and if he had a different logo on the side of his helmet, I think it would be a clear-cut winner for Pavia. And therefore, I'm going with Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt to get their first ever Heisman Trophy.
Very good pick. What I would say is I'm always confused by the Heisman Trophy and what they're looking for. It says best player, right? College football's individual award is best player. So a lot of times they give it to the person who has the best year on the best team and all these things. So to me, to break this list down, Julian Sayin out, he just kind of doesn't belong there in my opinion just yet. Jeremiah Love is the best football player. That's who I would give it to. Diego Pavia and Fernando Mendoza play the premium quarterback positions. They both have outstanding years. They both elevated their teams. To me, Mendoza elevating them to the #1 ranking in the college football playoff and winning the Big Ten is what would put, to me, where I think it's going to end up is Fernando Mendoza is my prediction. Jeremiah Love is who I would give it to.
I think Saturday we do have the very first bowl game, the LA Bowl. Boise State's 9-4 and Washington is 8-4. Washington's a 9.5 point favorite. I've got Washington winning this game. I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I think Washington wins, but I think Boise hangs around, I don't know, something like 32-24 or something like that. But yeah, I think Washington wins as well.
I'll make my pick for the Army-Navy game a little bit later with Navy great Keenan Reynolds. AV, do you got a winner in this game?
I think Navy's the better team. It's a rivalry team. I'm going to go with Navy, but as I'll talk about on the book club in a second, it's going to be closer than the experts think. But I do think Navy pulls it out.
All right, with only 2 games to pick from in the book club, don't hold me in suspense. Let's get a moneymaker play.
I like Army in this, man. I think to cover, it's either 6.5 or 6, depending on the book. So we'll go with 6. But I think it ends up a 24-21 type game. Really close, back and forth. Typical rivalry game, typical Army-Navy game. They both know each other very well. I do think Navy's the better team. I also wouldn't mind a play on the over. It's at 38. I think they both can get in the 20s. Or one team 24, the other team 17, something like that. Yeah, I think it's Army plus 6 or 6.5 if you can get it.
And my bonus pick would be the Boise State-Washington over at 52.5. Boise's had some trouble scoring when they're playing the best teams on their schedule, but they do give up points. Washington, they've had some trouble scoring against better teams on their schedule, but Boise State's going to be an easier challenge than some of their Big Ten foes. I think Washington wins this game like 34-21. And that'll push it definitely over the 52.5. We'll be right back with Navy legend Keenan Reynolds. Welcome back, Couch Coach Nation. I'm excited to have legendary Navy quarterback Keenan Reynolds join us on Complete BS. Keenan Reynolds is from Antioch, Tennessee, where he was a standout in both track and football. He was a 2-time All-Mid-State and led Good Pasture Christian School to a 27-6 record and consecutive district championships. During his career at Navy from 2012 to 2015, Reynolds was a 2-time AAC Offensive Player of the Year. He led Navy to a 36-16 record, 4 straight bowl appearances, 3 Commanders-in-Chief trophies, and a 4-0 record against Army. He's the only quarterback in the history of the Army-Navy game to go 4-0. The 2015 team had a remarkable 11-2 season capped by a Military Bowl victory and a top 25 finish. He finished 5th in Heisman Trophy voting that same season, the highest placement for a Service Academy player in decades, and was named 3rd team All-American. At the end of the season, his number 19 was retired by the Naval Academy, becoming just the 4th number to be retired. Keenan Reynolds is one of the most iconic option quarterbacks in college football history and a legend of the Navy midshipman program. He shattered NCAA records with his dynamic playmaking and unmatched command of the triple option offense. He graduated as the NCAA's all-time leader in rushing touchdowns with 88. After commissioning as a naval officer, Reynolds was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens and went on to spend time in the NFL and XFL. Since hanging up his cleats, he stayed close to the game as a college football analyst for CBS Sports, and he serves in the United States Navy Reserve. Keenan, it's an honor to have you on Complete BS.
Hey, I really appreciate you bringing me on, and I'm always excited to talk about Army-Navy, and this time of the year with the holidays and this game coming up just always gets me really excited.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite games all season long. I was like starting to talk with players about their recruiting process, and how did that unfold for you, and what sealed your commitment to Navy?
Yeah, so Navy was my first offer in my junior year, or toward the end of my junior year, and they were really my only offer into the winter. And so once I got to visit season, I went on a couple of visits. I got an offer from Air Force, and then ended up taking visits to the service academies. But then, just after being on site and seeing the campuses and meeting the players and the rest of the team and the coaches, staff, I just made a decision that, hey, Navy just felt like a better fit for me. The people really made the difference for me. And then I ended up committing and going to Navy, and the rest was history. But I wasn't like a super highly touted recruit. It took me a long time to get an offer, and then it was like a big gap between the Navy offer and when I got any additional offers.
For those that aren't familiar with the Naval Academy, the summer before your freshman year is plebe summer. Was that any different for you as a football player than the typical midshipman?
No, I mean, you still go through the same grueling, life-altering process. It's boot camp, right? I remember coming in, I had picked up some weight because I was going to college. I was lifting weights. It was like 195 or something like that. And by the time I got to fall camp later that summer, I probably lost maybe like 15 pounds. So went into camp like $180. Was in great shape. Lots of running, but no lifting for 6 weeks. You still go through the same things that the rest of your plebe classmates go through. The only difference is they pull you out about 2.5 weeks early just to go to fall camp. And, a lot of people had you guys are getting out of plebe summer early. But then you go to fall camp, get absolutely crushed. And back at that time, we were still doing 2-a-days. So I think we did like maybe 2 or 3 2-a-day practices during fall camp. So it was a pretty brutal time. You're just like swimming, trying to figure out like, where do I go? First day of practice, I remember like coming out of warm-ups and I was just confused. I was like, where do the quarterbacks go? Like everybody just sprinting in like a million directions, going to the drills, and I'm just looking around trying to find no quarterbacks. So I just remember my head spinning those first couple of days and weeks, but eventually started to get my feet under me. But it was certainly a one-of-a-kind experience.
The triple option offense isn't terribly common in high school. Did you run that in high school, or what was that learning curve like once you got to Navy?
I was a wing TQB, so a lot of like buck sweep, trap, and waggle plays. Those are kind of like the 3 main plays that the offense was built off of. And then as I got older, we started to throw the ball a little bit more. So we had a little bit of gun action. So it wasn't a lot of the reading that I did in Navy. But my senior year in high school, I went to Navy during my spring break because I wasn't traveling or anything. And I just wanted to get ahead. Like, let me see the playbook. I tried to scour the internet and find triple option playbooks so I could read it. And I remember Coach Jasper was like, hey, yeah, we don't have a playbook that we give to people. You just get here and you learn. So I showed up, sat in meetings before spring practice, went to actual practices, and tried to really internalize what were the big things that the coaches were harping on. And that was probably March. But again, once you get into the fall and like really start getting into meetings and doing the reps, that's when you start to really understand what you're doing. And it was just a great fit. I don't know if I had prior aptitude. It just fit. And it made sense to me, and learning the offense was intuitive, and I was able to pick it up pretty quickly. But I think that was just, kind of just the nature of being at the right place and with the right staff. And Coach Jasper, he's an amazing coach, so he makes it very easy to pick these things up, and he teaches in a way that really resonates with me.
You took over as a freshman and immediately made an impact. What do you remember about that transition as being a freshman and now leading the offense?
Yeah, I think I felt like when I went in, I had the confidence that I could play. I had never not been a starter my entire life, so I didn't really plan to not start in college. So I think I just tried to prepare myself as if I was going to play. The thing about the triple option offense is the number 2 quarterback. You're always one play away, and the nature of our offense, guys go down, and you got to be able to go in and keep the offense playing at a high level. I remember at Notre Dame, we were in Dublin. It was probably like the second quarter, and the starter at the time, he had hurt his ankle. And I just remember I'm on the headset on the sideline doing the backup thing, and I just hear all this assistant coaches screaming, Keenan, get ready, pull up. And I was just like, oh, I'm about to go in. First game of the season, quarterback's hurt. I'm about to go in against Notre Dame. I was like, oh, wow, this is actually happening. But he ended up like staying in, and I didn't play until later in the fourth quarter. And I just remember that first game. Before I go out for my first play, Coach O'Rourke, he looks at me like, it's our Coach O'Rourke and coaching room. They look at me. Both have kind of moved on from Navy, but they look at me and they're like, hey, don't turn the ball over. Sure enough, first drive, I fumbled and turned the ball over. So that was kind of my welcome to college football moment against Notre Dame. That team ended up going to the national championship that year. They had Manti Te'o. So that was just like a wild experience being on the field, first real game.
You shattered the NCAA career rushing touchdown record. When in your career did you realize that something historic was possible?
I didn't pay attention to it. Really the total touchdown record until probably like my senior year. In my sophomore year for the season record, I remember one offensive lineman, Jay Zuzak, came to me, he's like, hey, Keenan, like, if we score 3 touchdowns in the next 3 games, like, you can break Ricky Dobbs' record. And I was like, all right, cool. I ended up going out and scoring like 7. So, like, putting us right at the cusp of the record. And then I think my senior year, one of the O-line coaches was like, hey, we only need 14 touchdowns to break this record. We're going to get it. I think we could get it in game 4, game 5. So it was on everybody's mind. Obviously, the offensive line, like, they take a lot of pride in those types of stats. And I think it was a reflection of the team that I played with and the offense that I played in and the trust that the team had in me. So it's just an awesome thing to be a part of and something that no one can ever take away.
How is the Army-Navy week different than any other game week, from inside the locker room meetings, emotions, pressure?
I think that the big thing is probably more, it's like people probably make a bigger deal out of it than the players. Like, everybody on the field knows how important this game is. Like, when you walk on campus, the first thing, like, you're literally chopping through the halls of Bancroft. And every time you make a left or a right turn, you're either yelling, go Navy, sir, or beat Army, sir. So it's ingrained in your mind as a day one plebe to beat Army. So it's not lost on any of those players how important this game is. If you go into the weight room, you look at the plates, it literally says beat Army on the plates. It's like, no matter where you go, you're not more than a few feet away from a beat Army sign or a beat Army chant or a beat Army shirt. And so when you get to this week, everybody knows how important it is, and the preparation and intensity on the practice field is turned up a notch. But the important thing is to realize that it's still a football game, right? Like, it's still, so you got to put your pads on, still got to block, still got to tackle, still got to catch, still got to run. And a lot of times when you get in these like big rivalry games and all this pageantry and all this hype, people forget the very simple, basic, fundamental parts of the football game, and that ends up getting you beat. The important thing is to recognize that this is an intense rivalry. It is a huge game. Everybody cares about it. But at the same time, continue to do the things that have gotten you to this point. Navy's a very good football team this year. Done a lot of great things. So just remembering who you are and not getting into the Army-Navy game and like absolutely losing your mind and starting to do things that you haven't done for the last 11 games.
How did the leadership training that you get at the academy translate over to the football field, and vice versa, your football experience translate over to your military career?
Yeah, I think it's all about accountability. As a leader, you're accountable for your actions. You're accountable for your team. And football is the ultimate team game. And if 11 people aren't doing their job on one play, it makes it very hard for you to be successful. And conversely, I think in the military and in life, it is a team game in which everybody has to be on the same page and be accountable to do their job. And then I think there's something about dealing with adversity. Adversity is inevitable in life, is inevitable in your time as a military officer. And like, the football field is full of adversity, whether that is in the summer heat, running gassers, or in the weight room, or whether that's a comeback for an injury, or whether that's being down 14 points in the third quarter. Either way you look at it, you're going to encounter adversity. And the thing that football really reinforces is fighting through that and continuing to play and continuing to show up day in, day out, play in, play out. Because typically when you do that, some good things are bound to happen to you.
In your senior year, 2015, the coin toss was done by the sitting commander-in-chief, President Barack Obama. What was that like to have the president out there for the coin toss of the Army-Navy game?
Anytime you have people who run the country invested in the games, like that is a sobering moment. I also remember a different game my senior year, we had President George H.W. Bush out at the coin toss in Houston. And it's just a very sobering moment to be around someone who's accomplished so much in their life and have been responsible for the well-being and running the United States of America. So very grateful to have the opportunity. And I think it's just reflective of how big this game is.
Now, as a broadcaster, you get to see more of the traditions and pageantry of the game. Whereas when you were playing, you were more focused on the game. What's it like for you now watching all of the buildup, the pregame, marching onto the field, the prisoner exchange, all of these things that we as fans see, and that's something that we love about watching the game, but now you get to see it with a different set of eyes.
It's great. Coach Nehemiah used to always tell us, like, not to get looking up at the stands, not to look at the march on, not to get all caught up in all the things that surround the Army-Navy game, because it's an atmosphere unlike anything I've ever seen. I've been a part of NFL playoff games, and the Army-Navy game is just different. And so to be able to enjoy it and not have to be focused and play, like, it's great. I put my time in. We got our 4 games, and now I can just sit back and enjoy the game, enjoy the march on, the flyover, the cheering. It's loud. It's packed. I think it's just such a crazy, unique experience.
And everybody wants to sing second. For our listeners out there that don't know, at the end of the game, the alma mater of both West Point and Annapolis are sung. They go first to the team that lost, and both teams go and sing the alma mater of the losing team. And then both teams go to the winning student section and sing the winning team's alma mater. So you always want to sing second in this game.
For sure. That's what it is. Sing second. It is just like the Army. Singing second is another thing that you kind of quickly internalize. There's nothing like sitting through the losing team's alma mater and you're just like, being respectful. And then as soon as it ends, just like exploding over to your side, jumping in the stands. The people get loud, singing the alma mater, and then culminating that alma mater in a very loud and proud Beat Army. It's a top tier moment. And if you've watched it on camera, it is just as exciting and huge to be a part of in person as it is to watch on TV. So I know those guys are definitely looking forward to singing second again this year. And I fully expect that to be the case.
One more question before we get to the game. You're now in the Navy Reserve. What are you doing with the Navy Reserve, and what's your year look like in your commitment with that?
Yeah, so I'm out of the Navy Reserve. I got out about a year and a half ago now. So I did 8 years there. I was a cryptological warfare officer. Can't really get into too many details, but on the specific jobs. But the Navy has a 1 weekend a month policy, or the reserves in general, 1 weekend a month, and then 2 weeks of active duty. And so typically that's what my year looked like. When I was playing in the NFL, I would do some of my training in bulk in the off season, a month here or 45 days there to try to cover my requirements. But it's definitely a commitment, and it was a great time, learned a lot. And then even now, outside of the military, outside of football, have been able to still stay close to some of the mission sets in my civilian job. And it's been great to get back and serve in that light as well.
We'll get into the game this weekend. We've got Army at 6-5, Navy's 9-2. Navy's a 6-point favorite. Army lost a couple of close games and very easily could be 8-3, so don't let their 6-5 record fool you. Army does virtually all of their work on the ground. They've only attempted 108 passes on the season. In half of their games, they didn't even attempt 10 passes in the game. They're ranked 5th nationally in rushing, averaging 257 yards per game. Navy ranks number 1 nationally in rushing, averaging almost 300 yards a game on the ground, but offer a little bit more balance with 136 yards passing to Army's 78 yards per game in the air. Keenan, how do you see this game playing out?
It's going to be a fight. I think that you made a really good point about Army being 6-5, but also 2 close losses away from being 8-3. It's a good football team. They're going to be tough. They're going to run the ball. It's going to be a physical game. And it's really going to come down to who can win their one-on-one battles. Who's going to be more physical at the point of attack? Last year, we were. And I think we did some things on offense that they were not ready for. We had some things up our sleeves that they didn't have a good answer for. And I fully expect Coach Cronic to dial it up again this year. But nonetheless, like, even still, it's going to be a tough game. Like, no matter how good the teams are, when you look at Army last year, 11-1, AAC champs, riding high, and they came and got beat by 2 touchdowns. And then they're still a good team this year. They're not 11-1, but they're going to a bowl game. They got a very good rushing attack, and they competed in a very tough league, just like we did. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna take everything that we have to get over it. They definitely harbor some resentment from last year. Obviously, that season that they had kind of marred by that loss to us. And then I think the Commander-in-Chief is on the line, right? So everything is on the line here. Seasons become almost like forgettable if you don't close out the Commander-in-Chiefs in this game, no matter how good your regular season was. So I think it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a battle. But again, obviously rocking with my guys for sure. I think we're the better team. We had the more complete team. We had the more complete offense. We can do a little bit of everything. And I fully expect to see all the tricks on display this weekend.
Yeah, with both teams relying on the ground attack, that can chew up a lot of clock. And a difference maker in this game, I think, could be a quick scoring possession for a team. And I look for Navy to be able to capitalize there with Eli Heidenreich. He's got the ability to get open and pick up chunk plays in the passing game. I think Navy gets an extra possession out of it because of a quick score due to Heidenreich. I've got the midshipmen over the cadets, 27-17. Go Navy.
I love that. That's a great score.
All right, Keenan. Well, I really appreciate your insights and being able to talk about the Army-Navy game, what it's meant to you. It is one of the greatest games in the entire college football season. It doesn't matter the records. Everybody needs to tune in on Saturday and watch Army-Navy. My father-in-law served in the Navy. My brother-in-law served in the Navy. I'm all about it. So go Navy, beat Army. You can follow the Complete BS Pod on X and Instagram, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
Thanks for listening to Complete BS. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us online. And tell us what you think of this episode. Use hashtag CouchCoachNation, and let's keep the conversation going.